The ambassador Dirk Jan Kop of the Netherlands will talk about A Wide Horizon, his favorite bike and theater direction, and not only in the program Diplomats Live. They have very tasty cheese. Another colony of the Netherlands was Indonesia. You can see their Dutch architecture. The Lord of the Rings. Beautiful flowers, nature, architecture. You know, even in those days when Astana was named Akmola and Zelnograd, there were greenhouses and people planted all kinds of vegetables, roses and flowers.
This is for the light. It's a dynamo you put against the wheel, and then it produces the electricity for the light. See? In many countries the bicycle light is a battery, but we use this dynamo. Small children learn to ride a bicycle at a very early age. All school children go to school on bicycles in the Netherlands. Very few are taken by their parents in a car or go by bus. I always have my bicycle with me. In the Netherlands there are more bicycles than people. Nobody makes as many kilometers as the people in my country, more than 1,000 kilometers per person per year. So I always bring my bicycle, but here it's a bit difficult to go to work on a bicycle, which I always do back home. But I often go after work, like today, to the shop to do some shopping. In general about Kazakhstan, but of course I prepared very much before I was sent here as an ambassador. Also, before I came to Kazakhstan, I was involved in the policy of the European Union towards the former republics of the Soviet Union, so I was very much involved, for instance, in the negotiations for association agreements with Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, and now since last year there is also an agreement for enhanced partnership and cooperation with Kazakhstan that is in many ways similar to these agreements. Our highest priority in Kazakhstan is business. We are the largest investor in this country. We have sizable trade, and so the first thing I did was make sure that I visited all the companies in the Netherlands that have business in Kazakhstan. So traditionally that is oil and gas, but also surrounding the oil and gas business. Increasingly, the Netherlands is active here in agriculture. So a lot of Kazakh people think when they buy tomatoes, cucumbers or roses that they come from the Netherlands. Actually, they come more and more from Kazakhstan itself, but they are grown in Dutch greenhouses. Of course, there are many near Shymkent, near Almaty, but I recently was in Pavlodar, and there are greenhouses that grow tomatoes and cucumbers. Ikebastus, there is 5 hectares of roses and 5 hectares of tomatoes and cucumbers under glass. So this is huge business. Also in dairy farming, poultry farming, there is more and more Dutch activity. And as your own president mentioned in January 2017, that it is necessary to diversify the economy, and one of the directions is agriculture. That is very much in our interest. Then there is a smaller but growing field is the application of satellite data. Kazakhstan has satellites, but the Netherlands is leader in application, the use of the data. So these data you can use for everything: urban planning, finding pollution, traffic control, finding new oil and gas, locating oil spills, and also agriculture. In the Netherlands, farmers have an app on their telephone, and they can see exactly when to water their land, when to fertilize, when to get the crops off the land. So this is technology that is very useful for Kazakhstan. Also useful for Kazakhstan is that, of course, Kazakhstan doesn't have too much water, and Dutch agriculture has minimized the use of water. On average, it costs 40 liters of water to produce 1 kilogram of tomatoes in the EU. But in the Netherlands, we produce 1 kilo of tomatoes with only 4 liters. So 10% of the water use. One very good recent example is a company. They are going to invest about 170 million euros in building a factory near Almaty that will produce frozen French fries that will be sold in Kazakhstan but also exported to Russia. And in order to provide this factory with a good size potato, because their fries have to be long, they also develop their own fields, their own crops with Dutch potatoes that are grown near Almaty. Then the potatoes go into the factory. That is a very recent development, and it is interesting because this is a large investment that is not related to the oil and gas business, but it's related to production, local production and agriculture. We have about the same population as Kazakhstan, but Kazakhstan is 65 times bigger. Still, the Netherlands is the second food exporter in the world after the United States of America. Germany is number 3. So if from that small area of land you can be one of the largest producers of foodstuffs in the world, that gives you an idea how intense and how high-tech agriculture is. And it is, of course, the whole chain, from the seeds to the growing to the packaging and storage and the transport. And in all these fields, progress in Kazakhstan is possible, and they have to be connected. What is also important is the integration between the farmers, the universities, and government. At the end of my posting as Consul General in Osaka, Japan, I went with my wife and 3 sons back to Amsterdam by train. This was in 2009. So we took a ferry to Beijing, and then to Xinjiang, and then to Almaty, Moscow, Amsterdam. So I was in Almaty in 2009. For pleasure, I try to visit that as much as I can. To Pavlodar, I didn't fly but drove. It was 6 hours or something, 5-6 hours, but it is interesting to see. And this summer or in September, I will go with my wife on a trip through to the southeast of the country. We live with more than 400 people per square kilometer. You live with not even one person per square kilometer. So I like the big open space and all the room you have. We have, in my country, every square meter is planned. Even nature is planned. Everything, there is not much wild anymore. This is a wild country, and that appeals to me. Well, for a Dutch office, this is not an office with too many plants and flowers. As I said, the Netherlands is very much into horticulture, so there are flowers and plants everywhere. And because the market is so large, they're also cheap. So in all houses and offices, you find a lot of plants. Also, at this moment, I think 1 in every 2 flowers sold in the world has been in the Netherlands. There's every morning a big auction near Amsterdam airport. Millions of flowers are auctioned off and then sent to the planes and shipped to everywhere in the world. Not only Dutch flowers, flowers come from Kenya, from Colombia, from Israel, all to Amsterdam to be auctioned and then shipped. So flowers are very much connected to us. And, flowers are very much everywhere in the Netherlands. So yes, we have a few plants here, but it is not excessive in our eyes. There are days, of course, that I'm behind my desk, but I am very often not in the office to meetings, briefings, conferences. I travel through the country. I travel into the oblasts. Certainly 3 times a week there is something in the evening, dinners, receptions, other meetings, and the day is gone before I know it. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to celebrate our National Day, the birthday of our King, Willem-Alexander. He is of the royal family of Orange, and that has been ruling the Netherlands since. My hobby really is the theater. As a student, I played in the theater, I directed plays, and I had my own cabaret group, so kind of revue. This I continued also in the ministry. We have a yearly ambassadors conference, and all our ambassadors from all over the world come together for a week. And the last evening there is always a satirical cabaret show. And I've written and performed this show several times. I will turn 60 this year. I have still some years to go because our retirement age is now at 67. I'm going to start a small theater somewhere in the Netherlands. I love the theater, but on the other hand, if you're a professional actor, you have to perform the same play 160 times and get in the bus to a provincial town and play and go back. I don't know. I think it is nicer as a hobby than as a profession. But maybe the connection is that diplomats have to play roles as well. They have to present their country and their country's interest. They can not always say what they really think.
Stomme teven. Zeggen ze dat nog? Zal wel niet. Doe mij wat van die gooinoten.